I played Outer Wilds in its DLC last August after hearing nothing but the height of praise about it for years on end, and I haven't stopped thinking about it since. It's not like I haven't tried. I've watched movies, read books, I've even gone on holiday and played a whole host of other really excellent games, but no matter what, I always find myself waking back up at that campfire. I've tweeted about it incessantly. I've consumed every video essay and article I could get my hands on. I've watched playthroughs and then watched compilations of the best bits of those playthroughs. I even jumped through a dozen hoops to get my grubby little paws on physical copies of both the game and its soundtrack. I go unreasonably hard for Outer Wilds. Honestly, it's gotten a little dire, so I felt it was time to try and figure out what it was that had me so enamoured with this funny little game about exploring the universe in a rickety wooden spaceship. I hoped that by exercising my thoughts I might find some blessed fucking peace, so I did that. I wrote a whole essay about this game too. The words I'm beaming into your ears were at one point arranged into an article on my blog. But, as evidenced by the fact that I've rewritten the whole thing as a YouTube video, it didn't work. I'm still just as obsessed with Outer Wilds as I was before. So this video, you people, you're my last hope. So here's to one last trip around the solar system, one more look at this perfect little video game. Here's to one more loop. I hope you'll join me on my last journey into the wilds, and I hope that once it's done you'll rest by the campfire, roast some marshmallows, and that maybe you'll understand a little why this game is so meaningful to me, and to a dedicated community from all over the world. I'm going to really quickly run through what exactly Outer Wilds is for those who might not already know. I'm aware it's not exactly a smoking hot property. If you've not played the game yet though, I do recommend doing so before watching this. My video will still be here when you're done, and I promise the only thing you're going to want to do after you roll the credits is just talk about it. So go on, away with you, get out of here. Outer Wilds is a space exploration game developed by Mobius Digital and published by Annapurna Interactive. According to its Steam page, it is mystery and has puzzle. It was very well received when it released in 2019, but due to an unfortunate constellation of circumstances, it didn't achieve the broad appeal it otherwise might have. When people do talk about Outer Wilds though, they go absolutely fucking bananas for it. The general attitude amongst players is, as one Steam reviewer put it, this is not only a once in a generation game, but possibly a once in a lifetime one. Mechanically, it's about unravelling the mystery of an ancient civilization, trying very hard to prevent your autopilot from launching you into the sun, and trying to stand on this one fucking teleporter pad without getting sucked into the vacuum of space every time. Outer Wilds is a warm game. It's cozy, you might even say. You're not alone in this big scary solar system. There's always a campfire to sit by to catch your breath, always a fellow traveller to shoot the breeze with. The wonderful soundtrack feels like home. Outer Wilds is also set in a time loop at the end of the universe. It's the last 22 minutes ever and you've just woken up. You're one of only a scant few who are even aware of the time loop, with the majority blissfully unaware of the imminent heat death of the universe, which plays out loudly and often. You explore this doomed universe being exploded, drowned, launched into the sun, crushed by sand deep underground and eaten by anglerfish, all in search of the keys to turn off this utter destruction machine. Removed from the game's cozy atmosphere, you'd be forgiven for thinking this all sounds a bit fucking grim, right? As I trekked around the solar system as the Hearthian, becoming increasingly aware of how tiny and fragile I was in face of the endless void, I often contemplated this jumping puzzle on Brittle Hollow and how awful it was. Almost as often though, I found myself thinking about nihilism. Deaths come easily in Outer Wilds, and I came to feel that these deaths meant nothing. Not in the greater scheme of things, at least. By the end, I wasn't even looking up from what I was doing to watch the sky explode anymore. Nihilism is probably one of the better known branches of philosophy, having pervaded pop culture from a dozen different angles. We've all had an edgy teen who just wanted to watch the world burn show up in our mentions, at least at some point. This isn't Philosophy Tube though, so I'm only going to run down nihilism as a philosophy in its very barest form. Nihilism is the idea that nothing can ever be objectively known or accurately communicated, as nothing has any inherent value. It rejects religion on the idea that everything is cosmically meaningless, and so the existence of a creator god who endows his creations with meaning cannot be. Nihilism says there's no inherent goodness or evilness to anything. In fact, there's no inherent anythingness to anything. Life has no intrinsic meaning. Friedrich Nietzsche probably comes to mind when thinking of nihilism. Nietzsche said that God is dead, God remains dead, we have killed him. He thought that in the modern age, God was no longer a sufficient explanation for morality, and worried that humanity's tumble into the pits of despair as a result of this realization might actually lead to the downfall of modern civilization as we know it. I want to make a distinction though between nihilism the philosophy and nihilism the feeling. While playing as a character caught in a cosmic maelstrom at the end of time might inspire you to ponder the finer points of Nietzsche, I think we can all relate a little better to feeling nihilistic than being a nihilist. We've all at some point gotten through a long Tuesday in work, dragged our carcasses back home and just collapsed into bed, and then had to cook, and walk your dog, and wash yourself, and worry about money, all along living with the crushing realization that you need to do it all over again come the morning. In those moments, I know I've certainly felt that none of it matters. How could it? It's easy to feel that the words I write will forever gather dust in the digital void, and that even if someone were to hear them, what would it matter? It's easy to feel that my small life has no value in the fullness of time, and that the universe wouldn't blink if I just vanished one day. I think that feeling of nihilism, of hopeless ennui, is a lot more relatable than the intricacies of philosophy, at least to the average Joe Schmo like me. That feeling is where my thoughts would often go when playing Outer Wilds. All the triggers that might make us feel nihilistic IRL are present and correct there, repeating the same 22 minutes over and over, confronting our insignificance in the face of the immense scale of the universe. This sounds like a nihilism simulator. For another thing, there's a special kind of nihilism that comes with living in a time loop, and I'm not the first one to pick up on it. Jacob Geller made a whole video about this exact thing called time loop nihilism. He touches on the way that great expanses of time, especially looping time, and the consequenceless action that go along with it, have a corrosive effect on the integrity of identity. Living the same day on repeat distends and distorts our little human perspective in unnatural and horrific ways, bleaching the meaning from our actions by diluting their impact across time. Nihilism in a time loop is as much a process as a point of view. Outer Wilds' 22-minute loop spools out over and over, a flat circle rotating along with the cosmos. The story of the game doesn't even start until 9 million loops in. The unknowable lifespan of the universe stretches behind your character like a too long sentence before a full stop. As I came to understand the scope of the story of Outer Wilds, dead alien civilizations and quantum singularities older than the universe itself, I was often struck by the tiny place that I myself occupy in time. We're adrift in an ocean of it, both the hatchling and I. My actions, just like the hatchlings, are small. I am small. My character and I fail and fail and fail together, our failures punctuated only by a few specks of time where any of it actually makes any sense. The greatest failure of all, the most monumental setback, comes around halfway through most playthroughs, with the discovery of the Sun Station, a tiny structure hurtling around the Sun in close orbit. Picking through the ruins of alien villages, forges and labs, you'll come to understand that the Sun Station's purpose was to cause the Sun to go supernova in order to use that supernova to power a time travel device of sorts. When I found this out, I thought, well, that's obviously what keeps setting the sky on fire. The Sun Station is the utter destruction machine that's making a mess of everything. I need to switch that off. The awful truth of the place is evident from the moment you step foot on it. This is not a moment of triumph. A haunting track kicks in as you float through ancient, derelict corridors. You reach the command center, a glass-fronted room staring directly into the angry sun. You pull out your translator device and get to work deciphering the reports and comms between groups of Nomai. They reveal that the Sun Station never worked. There was never a possibility that the Sun Station could have caused the Sun to go supernova. Despite all their brilliance, all their ambition and their cooperation, the Nomai were unable to cause the Sun to explode. And they are so advanced compared to you. Even in all their glory, the Nomai were far, far too small to effect change on such a scale. That means that it's just our sun's time to go, and there's nothing at all you can do to stop it. I genuinely found this discovery to be kind of crushing. I was labouring under the assumption that my friends, the travellers dotted around the solar system, could be saved, that the kids playing hide and seek in my little home village could be saved, that lonely old Esker whistling to himself in his glade of trees on the moon could be saved. Having this hope dashed so definitively brought my character's relative meaninglessness into sharp focus. How small all of these people are in the face of the universe. Imagine the loneliness of watching the stars getting snuffed out over and over and over again, the sky burning out in a great blue flash only to wake up beside the campfire, knowing that the end is only another 22 minutes away. Imagine how isolating that must feel, to be aware of the frightening vastness of the universe and be unable to do anything to change any of it. Do you have to imagine it? This is the feeling of nihilism, of smallness. The spot of light at the end of your tunnel, the promise of meaning, can start to shrink. Smothered by dark endlessness, your ability to care about any of it just
sucked into a bagel.
Outer Wilds is obviously not the only piece of media to elicit feelings of existential dread and nihilism, but it shares a very specific attitude to nihilism with last year's Everything Everywhere All at Once. Everything Everywhere is the story of Michelle Yeoh's flustered laundromat owner Evelyn and her daughter Joy, played with gleeful malice by Stephanie Sue. It's broadly about the pair searching for meaning across an endless multiverse whose scale and complexity can make us feel very small. Joy has the terrible power to experience all of her disparate selves from across the multiverse simultaneously, to experience everything everywhere all at once. Across this endless sea of possibilities, she hunts for a version of her mother who might also gain this power, ostensibly in the hopes that she might guide her out of the bleak nihilism that Joy has come to see as the ultimate cosmic truth. When Joy was exposed to the impossible vastness of not just one universe but all of them, she came to feel that with so much stuff out there, none of it could possibly matter. Being exposed to the scale of the universe will do that to you, won't it, Chert? Joy's nihilism is all-encompassing, and it's represented in the film by the Everything Bagel. The Everything Bagel is a black ring made from time and space, memories and dreams, denser than a black hole. It's an awful black zero with oblivion at its heart. It's also just a bagel, like you can see the poppy seeds on it, which is very funny. Joy wants to enter the bagel, to end her existence across every timeline by collapsing her possibilities down to nothing. She wants to enter this last unknown. None of it matters, so losing it doesn't matter either. This idea has consumed Joy. The few specks of time where things make sense are, to her, meaningless. Meaning cannot escape the event horizon of the bagel. Evelyn, after being exposed to the terrible truth of the bagel, tears 1,000 of her lives to shreds. She trashes her laundromat in one universe, she breaks up with her girlfriend in another. She too is consumed by the same nihilism of the bagel. Evelyn and Joy are experiencing the same kind of time loop nihilism we talked about earlier, but as a result of their experience accumulating across space rather than time. They're not experiencing the same day over and over in sequence like your character in Outer Wilds, but are instead living the same day across 1 billion universes simultaneously. The accumulated experience and existential ennui of such a stretched existence bleaches the meaning from everything. Evelyn's husband, Waymond, played with the utmost warmth and humanity by Kei Kwan, shows us another way though, another way of seeing, an inversion of nihilism. Just as Evelyn is on the cusp of surrendering to the Everything Bagel with her daughter, her husband catches her eye from across the multiverse. She sees him again and again and again, in life after life after life, warm and kind and accepting every time. He knows just as she does that the world is hard, and it can feel uncaring and purposeless, but he's kind and warm anyway. He chooses to be. Evelyn realises then that if it feels like none of it matters, if none of it has any inherent meaning, then conversely, everything matters the exact same. There is always something to love. Waymond places googly eyes around their home, on their laundry machines, on customers' belongings. These goofy little peepers represent Waymond's whole deal. They're the yin to the everything bagel's yang. They're the dark and the light, goofy little reminders that we can choose what to do with our feelings of nihilism. Sometimes all it takes to feel better about the world is just a shift of perspective. I've taken to calling what Waymond does happy nihilism. He knows that the void is there, but he chooses to flip it on its head by always looking for something to love, by being kind, especially when no one knows what's going on. Philosophically, maybe even objectively, it might be true that nothing cosmically matters, but godless little chimps that we are, I don't think most people would concede that point. Try tell a mother her child is a meaningless homunculus of random atoms. You just try to talk to me on the bus while I'm crying to the Outer Wilds soundtrack on the way to work. Just try and tell me that it's only vibrations being picked up by my ear gubbins. Try it, I dare you. Of course things matter. Things matter because we say they do. Even if nothing has any inherent meaning, we imbue meaning by care. We transfer meaning with every word. Although the yawning, confronting meaningless of everything happening all at once might be overwhelming and depressing, while we might get lost in the sheer immensity of existence, our smallness can be liberating too. When nothing matters and there's no God, it falls to us to define for ourselves what's important. The universe simply is, and we are. Evelyn learns to see the world this way by accepting her daughter and husband and by journeying into the multiverse, but we've all played Outer Wilds here. We all know this outlook intimately, right? Outer Wilds sees past nihilism's event horizon to a simple truth. To live a fleeting life in the vastness of this universe is a beautiful thing. In the fullness of time, we are all important. Our meaningless is a magnificent fluke, the most beautiful accident ever to happen. Outer Wilds does not glance fearfully into the bagel for fear of what might stare back. It strolls in confidently and strolls right back out the other side. It might sound easy to slip into nihilism in Outer Wilds, to have your failures pile up, diluting your meaningful moments down to just a few specks of time where everything makes sense, but it never happens. Every discovery is special, every secret uncovered is momentous in spite of circumstance. The stars and planets waltzing overhead never stop inspiring awe. These little victories burn bright in defiance of the fullness of time. The intimidating vastness of the cosmos loses its capacity to induce nihilism with each mystery we solve. Time and space collapse down like a telescope being shut, the distance between the past and I growing ever smaller. The characters and the places and the histories of this little solar system are too meaningful for us to ever slip too far into the bagel. Outer Wilds makes it obvious that there's always something to love. At the end of Outer Wilds, all of our friends are gone. We couldn't save them, we failed to save our home, failed to save the universe. But despite all this, all of our friends and the places we lived were real, and their memories are vibrant enough to build an entire universe from. They were close enough for us to hear their music all along. Life is so big, unavoidably so. Even our own little Earth is almost incomprehensibly massive. I'm reminded of how insignificant I am each time I look at the moon to marvel at its cold distance, or see the leviathan shadow of a passing cloud. I am very small. Outer Wilds gave me the perspective to situate myself in time and space though, to understand that although I occupy only a very tiny place, and will do so only for a very short time, that it's mine and it's beautiful. It also taught me that despite every speck on every space rock being just as unimportant as the next, they're all an immutable part of the story of the universe. I might only be a brief flicker, my story no more than a footnote in the ledger of time, but I'm here. Every anxiety, every victory, no matter how small, happened, just like the ancient Egyptians happened, just like the dinosaurs happened. My life, no matter what I do with it, no matter how little it means, is indelibly etched in the ledger of existence. Although the universe of the Outer Wilds is not convincing in its scale or its scope, emotionally it fills the heart completely. It doesn't induce panic like a From Software boss does, but nostalgia. It synthesizes a sense of belonging and perspective to make you see things the way Evelyn does at the end of Everything Everywhere All at Once, sticking 4 little googly eyes to your face and telling you to face down the void with a smile. Outer Wilds fights nihilism with nihilism. You're an inconceivably minute speck of space dust. Your life is less than a blink. Nothing you do will ever really matter. Outer Wilds taught me that that's okay. What's here is beautiful and that I should do my best to fix it anyway.